let me know below in the video description. Wait, you guys can't edit the video description. Let me know in the comments. Damn it. Back in a Reddit AMA in 2020, Larian Studios confirmed to us that they are in fact planning on bringing multiclassing to Baldur's Gate 3, but that it was going to be added later on in early access. Now that was a while ago, and things of course do change, but I still firmly believe that we will be seeing this fun character building feature introduced to the game, even if we have to wait for the official release. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you guys all about multiclassing and how it works. Let's jump right in. In the most simple terms, multiclassing allows you to gain levels in multiple classes. If you decide to go this route with one or multiple characters, you'll have your character level, which is the total combined levels that you have from all classes that you've dipped into, and you'll have your individual class levels. So if you're a level 3 sorcerer and you gain enough XP to level up, you can of course become a level 4 sorcerer, which is also character level 4. Or you can dip into another class, so let's say that you end up dipping into the warlock class. You're still a character level 4 at this point, but you're also a level 3 sorcerer and a level 1 warlock. This is important to understand because when you level up, you'll level up into one class, and the new class features that you gain access to are based on that particular class's level. So every time that you multiclass, you're effectively lowering the max level that you can reach in a specific class. We don't know what character max level will be in Baldur's Gate 3, but let's say that it ends up being 14. If you take one level into Warlock and then the rest all go into Sorcerer, you'll never be able to get to class level 14 with your Sorcerer. The highest that you'll be able to achieve is Sorcerer level 13. Because of this, you'll be missing out on gaining access to the Sorcerer's level 14 feature, which is a Sorcerer subclass related feature. You will have reached character level 14, but not a class-specific level 14. So ultimately, the more that you multiclass, the less high-level features that you'll be able to gain in any particular class. But the benefits are that you are now gaining new features from an entirely different class. If you find some really good synergies between multiple classes, you can have some really powerful, unique builds, and you won't even care that you're missing out on some of the higher class-specific features. It's also important to note that in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, you can multiclass into more than just 2 classes. So if you wanted to be a fighter, bard, sorcerer, you can do that as long as you meet the prerequisites, and we'll talk about prerequisites here shortly. Let's do another example to make sure that everyone is following along. Let's say that you want to take tanking to an entirely new level and you get this idea to play as a barbarian, but you're also thinking about taking a few levels in druid to gain access to the druid's wild shape feature. You let your barbarian get all the way to level 5, gaining that extra attack level 5 barbarian feature. But when the next 2 levels come around, you start dipping into the druid class. At character level 6, you take 1 level into druid, gaining access to druid spells. At character level 7, you take another level into druid, getting the druid's wild shape feature and also choosing the druid's circle of the moon subclass, making wild shape even more potent. You are now a level 5 barbarian with all of the barbarian class features that a level 5 barbarian should get, but you're also a level 2 druid with most of the features that a level 2 druid gets. The reason why I say most and not all is because you don't always gain all of your new classes' starting proficiencies, but I won't really get into that in this video. So now you're a really formidable tanky tank as you've gained the extra HP that wild shape offers. You likely also have resistance to all damage types because you probably chose the barbarian wildheart subclass with the bear animal choice. And you have access to druid spells, which of course gives you some healing spells. Let's say that you then decide to take the rest of your levels in Barbarian, and max level in BG3 is 13 for this particular exercise. The highest that you'll be able to reach is Barbarian level 11, making you miss out on that ability score improvement at level 12, and also the Barbarian feature Brutal Critical at level 13. So you did sacrifice some things, but if you plan your multi-class out well, you won't really care as you've gained a hell of a lot of power in other areas. Now you can't multi-class into any class that you want to at any time, as you do have to meet the prerequisites for multi-classing. You can see the D&D 5e chart right here, which is likely the same prerequisites that Larian will use for Baldur's Gate 3. If you're a barbarian and you want to take a level into druid, your barbarian must not only have at least a 13 in strength, but it must also have a 13 in wisdom. If you're a rogue and you want to take a level into sorcerer, your rogue must first have at least a 13 in dexterity and at least a 13 in charisma, which is the sorcerer's spellcasting ability. This will be really easy for some of the multi-classing combinations, such as the sorcerer and warlock, as they both use charisma. There's also some features that may overlap, and you might be wondering about how or if they will stack. For example, if you have channel divinity with one class and then you multi-class into another class that gives you more channel divinities, you will have access to a large selection of channel divinities to choose from, but the uses for those channel divinities will not stack. Other features such as extra attack also do not stack. Spellcasting can be a little tricky because spellcasters have their own class-specific spellcasting charts. How many spells known and how many spells can be prepared is really simple because you'll just follow each individual class's rules. So if you're a level 2 sorcerer and a level 1 druid, you'll have 4 sorcerer cantrips and no 3 sorcerer spells. And you'll also gain 2 druid cantrips and be able to prepare an amount of druid spells that is equal to your druid spellcasting modifier plus your druid's level. When we get into spell slots though, this is where we have to refer to a 5th edition chart. If you haven't really been following along so far with this, don't worry, as it will certainly be simplified in Baldur's Gate 3. If you're multiclassing into 2 primary spellcasters, so wizard, warlock, sorcerer, druid, and cleric, you simply refer to this 5th edition chart. If you're a sorcerer and a druid, and the levels of both of those classes combine to equal level 4, you'll have 4 level 1 spell slots and 3 level 2 spell slots. When you're using a combination of secondary spellcasters, such as ranger or paladin, and primary spellcasters, the game will likely divide your total level of your secondary spellcaster by 2, and then add it to the level of your primary spellcaster, and then it will refer to the chart to come up with how many spell slots and what level you'll have access to. It gets even a little more complicated when you add in more classes into the mix, but like I mentioned earlier, in Baldur's Gate 3 this will all be done for us, and we'll just simply have to choose what we can choose. I should also mention that your proficiency bonus increase will be based on your character's level, not your individual class levels. So if you're a level 4 fighter and you take a level into cleric, making you also a level 1 cleric, you'll still get that proficiency bonus increase to +3 because you are character level 5. So hopefully you now have a decent understanding of the basics of how multiclassing works, and it will likely work very similar in Baldur's Gate 3. Now let's take a look at some of the more powerful and creative multiclassing ideas from the D&D 5th edition community so you can start brainstorming for your Baldur's Gate 3 character. So I asked people over on the Baldur's Gate 3 Reddit to share with me their favorite 5th edition multiclassing combinations and to try to stick with players' handbook classes and subclasses. Now you could multiclass in the original Baldur's Gate games, but those games are based on a different version of D&D, so things do change quite a lot. But still, if you got some cool BG 1 and 2 multiclassing combinations, let me know below in the video description. Wait, you guys can't edit the video description. Let me know in the comments. Damn it. Reddit user Drath Malorn says, I like hitting my enemies with a melee weapon, hard and then hit them again and again. Fighter, barbarian, and barbarian fighter are rock solid multiclass options for this, and Drath gives us the idea of doing 11 levels into fighter, 2 levels into barbarian, and this is a fighter that picks up levels in barbarian to get the barbarian's rage feature and also get reckless attack. And you'll notice that most of the most powerful multiclassing combinations only take a couple levels in another class. And the reason for this is because all the classes get their most powerful features right away at levels 1, 2, or 3. So you don't have to take a ton of levels in 2 different classes. You can take just a couple in one and then do the rest in your primary class. Drath's other combination is Barbarian 11 plus and Fighter 2, and this is a Barbarian that picks up levels in Fighter to get a fighting style and action surge. Cool ideas. Drath also brought up Sorcerer and Warlock, which is called the Sorlock, and those of you guys that are playing early access that want to try out a form of Sorlock, I did do a build video, and I'll leave a link to that below in the video description. Really powerful, not multiclassing because we don't have multiclassing yet, but I took advantage of the Magic Initiate feat and created a really powerful build. And Drath also brings up Wild Magic Sorcerer and Archfey Warlock, which is a nice thematic build. You don't always have to do builds for power, you can also do them for RP reasons. And below this, we have RPBN, who says the good old Sorlock Eldritch Blast machine gun. Quicken spell to turn Eldritch Blast into a bonus action so you can do it twice in a round. And for extra fun, pick up a couple levels of fighter levels for action surge to do it again. Since Baldur's Gate 3's max level is not going to be 20, at least in the base game, we will have less opportunities to pick up like a third multiclass in a reasonable way, but Hey, it's all about having fun and trying things out. Down here we have sponsored 4D content recommending Paladin 2 and Sorcerer X as one of the best gishes in the game. Heavy armor, full spellcasting, meta magic, and plenty of spell slots for smiting. Battlemaster, Fighter 5, and Rogue X. You get high armor class, 2 attacks per turn, and you can sneak attack on the enemy's turn with the riposte maneuver. So sponsors got it all figured out here. And sponsors' last recommendation is Fighter 2 and Wizard X, because you get heavy armor, constitution saving proficiency, and action surge to cast 2 spells in 1 turn. So both of these users brought up taking Fighter for action surge, so you can cast 2 spells in 1 turn. And right here we have our very own channel member, Zyphiel, shout out to Zyphiel, bringing up the idea of doing Barbarian Berserker with 3 levels into Fighter with a subclass of Champion, because you're going to get great weapon fighting, action surge, and you'll be able to get critical hits on a roll of 19 and 20, 19 or 20, excuse me. Well, 19, both of those make sense. And also you're going to get reckless attack, giving you advantage, making that critical roll of rolling a 19 or 20 a lot easier, and that makes sense that would work. It's a pretty cool, interesting idea. XXVR0 says definitely Monk and Druid. That sounds like a cool multi-classing combination. Being able to use unarmed strikes and unarmored defense while wild shape, especially since you get to keep your wisdom, is pretty cool. K-Caddy says Hexblade Paladin or Hexblade Bladesinger. Unfortunately, both of those are subclasses that are not in the player's handbook Oh, that's a bad word. So we don't know if we're going to have access to either of those, but I'm sure that both of those subclasses will be modded into the game because they're quite popular in D&D. Reddit user Lithal says Warlock 2 and Abjuration Wizard 8. Cool. I would throw up Armor of Agathis and Fire Shield to severely punish anyone hitting me in melee. An Arcane Ward gave me a buffer on top of Armor of Agathis, temporary HP to make it last longer, and it would recover a little bit with every abjuration spell I cast, like shield or counter spell. Then pile on damage resistance wherever I could and mix it up in melee. Now, the character was a blast to play, and despite the wizard hit dice being fairly low, I only dropped below half health twice. So pretty cool. Rock Ness says, I second this multi-class, Warlock, Abjure, Wizard. So make sure you guys remember that multi-classing combination. And we already have access to the Abjure Wizard right now in early access, but we can't multi-class, of course. Rock Ness also brings up that this is also a potentially thematic and uniquely synergistic build for Gale, our favorite wizard. That's an interesting way to handle an origin companion. PM Me Your Dimples says that... Oh man, he's always been a fan of Wizard Cleric multiclassing. I'm watching you. Man, Reddit users have crazy names. Says that in this game, Thief, Rogue, and Dragonborn Sorcerer is what I'm excited about. You get an extra bonus action, proficiency and plenty of weapons. You can make 3 melee attacks while dual wielding. So I'm going to be watching you. We'll be doing Dagger main hand and Short Sword, Long Sword off. Automatic 15 armor class when naked, so not wearing armor. You're a perfect swashbuckler. All right, a few more, and then we're going to call it a day for this video. Branad says, Winged Tiefling Strength-Based Shadow Monk, otherwise just D&D Batman. Rockness comes back in and says, Barbarian 1 with Blade Pact Fiend Warlock 9+. Uthwi Sky recently played a Kenku Rogue 1 and Trickery Cleric 4 for a one-shot and really enjoyed it. It's not an absolute powerhouse in terms of damage output, but it's an incredibly flexible problem solver with 8 skill proficiencies and 2 expertise skills at level 1. So it's not always about just being the most powerful that you can be in combat. Sometimes it's about other situations as well, depending on how you like to play. Ponder This says, I played a half-orc barb 11, Hexblade Warlock 5, so we don't have Hexblade, but you could still probably make this multi-class work somehow. He did a great axe with D12 damage, Hexblade for crit on 19 and 20, and 4d8 Eldritch Smite. Got it all figured out, man. And the last one that I'm going to be able to do in this video, because there's no more comments at the moment, although I'm sure more will come today, is Paladin Sorcerer is a very good winner. I hear a lot of people talk about this multi-classing combination. And Moonlight says Paladin 6, Sorcerer X, or Paladin 3 and Sorcerer X levels. So yeah, that will be it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know what multi-classing combinations you're excited for, and also just share with me your Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 multi-classing choices, because some of those are pretty cool as well. I'll catch you on the next one.